Hello. So this wire is manufactured to have a diameter of 1.50 mm. Using the MSG, all of you measured it to be all kinds of values. Why? Alright, look here. That's a 1.50 mm. Let's try it at a different section. See? 1.50 mm. One more time. .50 mm. So this wire is quality, man. Alright, how did some students measure the diameter to be smaller? Maybe the student didn't use a ratchet. Maybe the student is very strong. And depending on how strong you are, you can make the diameter as short as you want. What about students who measure the diameter to be significantly larger? I was thinking maybe those students were measuring at a spot where the wire was bent and then straightened back. So if you measure the diameter at such a spot, you tend to get a diameter that is much larger. See? Instead of 1.50, it's now about 1.73. So you should avoid measuring at where there are kinks. And of course, you should have measured the diameter at a few different spots. That's why we tell you to repeat and average. Now there are also students who measured everything to be exactly 0.50 mm shorter. And I think we have a good idea what happened. So look here, I've actually turned this thing manually until it's reading 1.52 mm. So it's supposed to read 1.52 mm. In an ideal world or in textbooks, the 1.5 mm mark would have shown up here. And so everybody will have no problem reading it to be 1.52 mm. But this is not ideal world, this is a real world. And in the real world, the marking may not have appeared yet. You have to turn it a bit more before you can see it, you see? It's supposed to have appeared, but it's just that it didn't. So without seeing that third mark completely, many students may read this to be 1.02 instead of 1.52. So really, the lesson learned is you should look at the whole scale here, right? From here, you should ask yourself, does it look more like 1.52 or 1.02? So hopefully you can judge that, well, it looks more like 1.52. On the other hand, we have students who measured it to be exactly 0.50 mm larger. And we also have a good idea what happened. So this is another MSG, and I've manually turned it to show 1.45 mm. So it's supposed to be 1.45 mm. In textbooks, it would mean that the 1.5 mm mark should be completely hidden. It shouldn't have appeared. But this is the real world. In the real world, sometimes you can see a bit of the third mark. So instead of 1.45 mm, some students will read it as 1.95 mm, right? Because they think that the third mark has appeared. Actually, the third mark has appeared by just a little bit only, right? If you turn it a bit more, it will be completely hidden. So how do you tell whether it is 1.45 mm or 1.95 mm? You look at the scale before it, right? Just ask yourself, does this look more like 1.45 or 1.95? Alright, so using the MSG or the vernier calipers are very common exam questions. So try to not make the mistakes that I showed you, and If you're unsure, maybe just use your agar-ration. And for longer lengths, maybe fall back on the good old-fashioned meter rule to check whether your reading makes sense or not. Alright, ta-ta!